What's up, everybody? I'm Valente, and we are here in week 4 of Behind Enemy Lines. And in this series, we like to talk to a fan of the opposing team. Now, you see Dominic's jersey to the right of me. The Saints are going up against the Buccaneers this week, and we got a pretty interesting game. So, without further ado, let's just get into this. We're going to start with the obvious question or the main question, considering there is a lot of injury issues going into this game. If you're looking at this game before the season, you're looking at it much different now going into week 4. So, what are the keys to success for the Buccaneers against the Saints this week and vice versa? I'm going to let you start.
So I'd say if the Bucs want to win this game, honestly, health is a pretty big factor at this point. Both of our starting outside cornerbacks are hurt, and even if one of them plays, it will be just a massive boost for us. If they aren't, though, I guess establishing the run and it being an actual because Canales is very balanced. Passes just about as often as he runs. If that run game can actually be a good run game, the Bucs will win the game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think for the Saints, you just gotta try and lean on Jameis because it's getting more likely by the day. Yesterday they brought Jake Luton back to the main roster, and it's looking more likely that you're going to see Jameis Winston starting this Sunday. So you just got to be able to lean on Jameis. Don't rely on him to do everything. Don't let him be Superman, but trust him, because that's just something we've seen dwindle away, is their trust for Jameis. And they just got to attack the weak points. Like you said, the Bucs are missing probably 2 of their starting outside corners. So you got to be ready to let Jameis fire off on all cylinders. You got to hit them where they don't expect it, because we already know, if you look at last year, Jameis threw 40 times in the first game against the Bucs, and it did not go well for him, obviously. But you just got to hit them where they don't expect it. You got to let them go out there. You got to let them just fire the rock wherever he can. You got 3 great receivers, or 3 good receivers. Just mix it up. You got Alvin Kamara coming back. That's one thing I do like about Jameis, is that he knows when to check down. And Alvin Kamara, the difference between having Tony Jones or Alvin Kamara is Alvin Kamara can turn those little check downs into big plays. You can trust those pass catchers to help Jameis. You can trust the run game now. The offensive line is just something we're still weary about, no matter who's there. But you just got to be able to let Jameis cook, and that's something I don't think I'll ever say in my life again. But you just gotta open it up. You gotta open it up. And with that, actually, I'll go ahead and pull up the injury report, and we'll kind of get into, I guess, expectation, or something that we, something that's like game changing to the teams. I gotta figure out how to put this up again. Okay, there we go. So right here we got the injury report for Thursday. And on the Saints side, you're missing Jordan Howden, Derek Carr, obviously, Cesar Ruiz with a concussion. He probably won't play, considering concussions are taken very seriously now. Paulson Adebo with the hamstring, and then Foster Moreau's returned to limited participation. And then for the Bucs, Carlton Davis is back at full participant. Jamel Dean is still out of practice, along with Servakia Dennis, Kalijah Cansey, Derek Pitts, and Vita Vea. And then Devin White returns to practice in limited fashion. So is there anything there that's not really expected or anything that's kind of stands out to you?
Carlton Davis being a few names. Carlton Davis being a full participant, that basically is almost guaranteed he's going to play. Thank the Lord. And then Devin White, I did not realize that he was. I knew he had an injury. I did not realize he did not practice on Wednesday. That is not good, especially considering Alvin Kamara is coming back. Devin White, I've been a pretty decent hater, I guess, on in the past, just because I know he's probably going to get overpaid. But actually, this season he's been phenomenal, flying all around the field, and I think that's going to put a lot more on Lavonte David. Kalijah Cansey, I thought he would be ready. I thought this was going to be the week he was going to be ready to go. 2 straight DNPs is not a good sign. He would be a huge thing for the Bucs defense, because if he can get to Jameis, and Jameis, if he gets to Jameis and Jameis is Jameis because he's getting pressure, then it's huge. That's huge for us. So
yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I think either way, whether Kalijah Cansey and Vita Vea play or don't, I think the defensive line should still have a good day. Our offensive line, no matter who you put there, just hasn't been good. Obviously, you're missing Cesar Ruiz too, so you're kind of going eye for eye there. It's kind of hard to really put a finger on what the offensive line is going to do, even if the Bucs are weakened. I don't really know how to put it. I've never been able to put a finger on how bad the offensive line is for us. It's just, I don't care who you put there. You could put Jose Ramirez at edge, and he'd probably still get there. So, and to a lot of people, Jose Ramirez is probably the lowest touted prospect at edge rusher. Like, I'm pretty sure Jose Ramirez would probably work Trevor Penning.
To a lot of people, they don't know who Jose Ramirez is. So let's be fair.
Yeah, so, I mean, you could probably put anybody there against the Saints offensive line, and they might eat up. So, I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I think the Bucs will be fine on the defensive front no matter who plays. Because whether the Saints are at full strength or at half strength O-line, it's still not going to be good. And then one that stood out to me was Paulson Adebo was still out. That's okay, considering like how good Isaac Yiadom did last week on, I think it was Jaden Reed. But again, I don't know who they're...
Either Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks, or Reed.
I think it might have been Wicks. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I've tried to put that game in the rear view, dude. That was so bad. But either way, both teams are facing some hardships, I guess you could say. Jordan Howden is probably not going to play, which sucks because I think that makes us very, very thin at safety now. I think besides Tyrann Mathieu, I don't know who else is on that. JT Gray. I mean, you might call up Smoke Monday to the 53, which I'm not a big fan of, honestly. Last year, I would have taken Smoke Monday if he wouldn't have gotten hurt. But, a lot of people say you can take more bad than good from the preseason. Smoke Monday did not look anywhere near good. He did not show any sort of promise. So I'm kind of scared for what that safety room is going to look like this week. But yeah, it's a very weird game. It's a very weird upcoming game now. If you look at it in week one, you're thinking, if you're looking at it pre-week one, you're like, okay, who the Bucs got? Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask, who's playing? Now you see Baker's cooking up. He's doing his thing. Now you got a whole completely different perspective on it. All right. So next, what is your dream scenario? And by that I mean best case scenario. What is the be all end all for the Bucs this game?
Best case scenario is, like I said before, the run game gets cooking. I don't think. I mean, if our run game gets cooking, there's not a whole lot of teams to stop us. Everybody's seen what Baker can do when he has a good run game, and that would be the ideal scenario. The other thing would be Mike Evans not getting absolutely clamped by Marshawn Lattimore, his figurative father. But yeah, that would be. And even if he does get clamped, Chris Godwin cooking would be another nice addition.
Yeah, I think that's the matchup I want to watch. Is I'm not gonna come out here and say Mike Evans and Lattimore, because that's just the most obvious thing you could say. I think Alontae Taylor versus Chris Godwin might be pretty good.
Yeah,
because Chris Godwin did a pretty good job this past week.
Yeah, he was phenomenal against the Packers.
If there's any bright spot, it's Alontae Taylor.
I was watching that game, actually. I didn't have that many games available to watch, so I was like, you know what, this is going to be my game. And I legitimately left in the third quarter to go do something else. And when I came back and I saw that the Packers were winning 18-17, I went, oh my gosh, Alontae Taylor did all that for nothing. That was my immediate first thought, because he played phenomenal.
If you look at the numbers, he did good, but if you just look at how he played, like on film, it was just perfect. Like obviously towards the end he kind of gave it up a little bit, but I don't know what the hell Dennis Allen's idea was to play prevent defense in the third quarter. But look, we move. Either way,
we move on, but we move.
Both teams are 2-1. I think this might be for the NFC South first place. Have the Bucs played in division yet? Or is this their first game?
No, this is our first. This is our first division game. And the Panthers are not even gonna be a chance. They're terrible.
Yeah,
however,
I said way before, the Panthers probably don't have a chance. That's the one team that's out of it.
Not even close. I could tell you that from before the season started. However, I was scarily high on the Falcons before I realized Desmond Ridder is not that much better than Marcus Mariota. So I still think that they definitely have a shot at it.
Yeah. I mean, so here's the scenario for this week, I think. If the Saints win against the Bucs, no matter what happens in the game between Jacksonville and Atlanta, they take first place. Because the Saints would be 2-0 in the division, and Atlanta would only have one game in the division right now. If the Bucs win, they would be second in the division, depending on what happens in the
Falcons game.
Jacksonville. Yeah. So it's a pretty big week for NFC South standings. But with that, we're going to move on to the next question. Obviously, with dream scenario, we got to get a little negative. What's the nightmare scenario for?
The nightmare scenario is exactly what I feared would happen in the very beginning of the season when I was doing my own record predictions for each individual team in the NFL. And that is, the defense is not healthy. I know I've said this I think it's twice already on this episode. I don't care. The Buccaneers do not have great depth. They have great stars and not a lot of depth. That was the cost of letting all of our veterans go in the offseason. And that's why we only have our oldest defenders at the age of 31, and not a single other defender is above the age of 30. We're a very young defense, and because of that, our depth is not good. The two outside cornerbacks. Looks like Carlton Davis might be good to go, but Jamel Dean is the better of those two guys, and he's sitting out. Or at least he's most likely to sit out. In that scenario, Zion McCollum or D. Delaney comes in, and neither one of them looked great last week. D. Delaney missed a tackle that could have given the Buccaneers the ball back against the Eagles. It's just a nightmare scenario there. If Kalijah Kancey cannot pressure Jameis Winston. Good Lord, I can't believe I'm saying this. Jameis could hypothetically cook. That's a nightmare scenario, especially as a Bucs fan who drafted him. Yeah, it's just it's a complete nightmare. If Joe Shoyinka decides he's going to go back into his first 2-year form instead of the way he's been playing this season against Trevor Penning, well,
yeah,
that's an issue, right? If Shaq Barrett cannot get enough pressure against Ryan Ramczyk, if Vita Vea is out, I mean, we have nobody there. If we have to play, or if we had to elevate J.J. Russell, our preseason standout, to the we had to elevate him to the roster because Servatia Dennis, Devin White, both of those guys are out. If he has to play, I loved him in the preseason. Am I going to love him during an actual game?
Yeah,
I don't know. We've never seen him we've never seen him on the regular season football field.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about for him, I guess. Preseason standout, you would hopefully carry those expectations over, but you never know. There's people that completely flop when they get to the next level of competition.
Yeah, and even then, KJ Britt is still a factor. So it's going to be a rotation between the two. I'm just hoping J.J. Russell is as good as advertised.
Yeah. Well, I actually forgot to mention the dream scenario for the Saints. I just think dream scenario, and it's going to be this until they get it right. Dream scenarios that the offensive line holds up because they haven't. That's just very obvious. That's going to be my dream scenario every week until it happens. Now, nightmare scenario, I'm not going to say the O-line because that just seems like it happens every week. Nightmare scenario is that you let all of these people out and Jameis is cooking, but then he gets hurt. Where do you go from there? Because Jameis is a very fragile person now. We've seen that. He's been injured very quickly within the last 2 seasons. He had 4 back fractures against Atlanta in this first game because he kept getting hit. More likely than not, he's going to keep getting hit on Sunday. It's very, very possible. He could get hurt. Where do you go from there? You got Jake Luton, who's I don't remember the last time he's ever played an NFL game.
Jakes.
Jake Hayner's injured.
Oh, he's injured.
Not injured. Suspended.
He got suspended? When did I miss that? I'll go look at that later.
PDs.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know what it was. It just said PDs. They never got into it. It could have been something in his vitamins that is banned by the NFL. Yeah. The same situation as DeAndre Hopkins last year, right? But Jake Hayner's out. He's suspended. You got Jameis and then Jake Luton, and then where do you go from there? If Jameis gets injured, the Taysom Hill plan collapses because you want Taysom Hill to be available at quarterback if Jake Luton seems to get hurt in the same game. So you don't want to be backed up against the wall. That's the
both
nightmare
of our
scenario.
Scenarios are involving health. Yours is just the most important position, whereas mine is the entirety of our core as a winning football team.
Yeah, pretty much. It's going to be hard to not name health as a nightmare scenario because with the history of the Saints for the last, 4 or 5 years, this is the 5th year in a row our starting quarterback's been out for, some sort of injury. So it's kind of hard not to worry about health as like a nightmare scenario. So, I mean, I got to go there. I can't really think of one that's not super obvious, but nightmare scenario is just everything goes to shit with the quarterbacks, and then you have to abandon the Taysom Hill plan. And Taysom Hill's plan, run the ball, right?
Yeah.
When Taysom Hill is your QB2, then you start abandoning that plan because let's say Taysom goes out there and gets a nice run, but Trevor Penning decides to hip toss someone. and that person that he hip toss lands on the back of his leg and injures him. So then you gotta be very cautious with what you put out there. So that's my nightmare scenario. I'm sorry if that took way too long.
You're fine.
But all right. All right. Second to last question. Who is your breakout game candidate?
So I guess if it were going to do, I have two answers for this, and one of them is a breakout, and one of them is just not really a breakout, but just better than expected or better than what he's produced.
Yeah.
The breakout is Joe Tryon. I do think against Trevor Penning that he'll be all right.
He should. He should.
Good God, he better. Otherwise, we have a first-round bust on our hands. But against Trevor Penning, he should have his breakout. I'm at least one sack, maybe two. If not, just get pressured on Jameis. That's the key to winning the game, is getting pressure on Jameis. And then in terms of just better than expected, Sean Tucker needs to be an NFL running back, and I think this might be the week where he could put up. I think he might get a couple more carries. I think he might get. I think he will actually look like the 1B in a committee. Or maybe even not the 1B, just the number 2, but just adequately put up yards on somewhat okay efficiency instead of being, I think it's, what was it in the past 2 weeks, 8 carries and 7 yards, and then what was it, 7 for 5, something, or 7 for 11, something just, ridiculous. He's got like 1 yard per carry this season. I understand the O-line hasn't helped him a whole lot, but Rachaad White's doing better than he is, and Rachaad White's a better pass catcher than he is a pure runner.
Yeah. I would say the Bucs running backs haven't done what preseason expectations look like. You think that Rachaad White's going to be, the guy that you want to lean on, considering you don't think your quarterbacks are going to be that good, but it's kind of reversed. The quarterbacks are doing their cooking, and then the running backs are just lacking in their game. But I guess my breakout or better than expected game, I'm going to say breakout. I'm going to stick with Bryan Bresee. Considering that the Bucs O-line, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Bucs O-line is middle of the pack, right?
So
in terms of ranking,
there's Tristan Wirfs. There's the interior of our O-line. Our guard play is mediocre at best, but I guess not the worst in the league. Center is not great. And then tackle, Luke Goedeke. He's been better than last year. That's not exactly saying much, but he's been better than last year.
Yeah.
So there's basically just Tristan Wirfs being like a heaven-sent angel, and then not great on the rest of it. So
it's like, have you seen the template of the 3 dragons, and then one of them's like staring very menacingly, the other one's kind of staring menacingly,
the one goofy one.
Looking at the other one. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm imagining you're saying. But yeah, Bryan Bresee,
there's only one menacing one and 2 goofy ones.
Right. Like one's trying to be menacing, but he's just too focused on the other one who's just being a complete doofus. Yeah. So, yeah, mine would be Bryan Bresee, considering you're saying the interior D-line's a little bit mediocre. I think Bryan Bresee's had his opportunities to work against mediocre interior linemen recently. It's just it hasn't showed up on the stat sheet. A lot of the plays that he's made have been called back due to certain flags in the secondary, which is like in the Panthers game, he had a strip sack fumble, and it got called back because Paulson Adebo can't keep his hands off people. That's typical Paulson Adebo, but Bryan Bresee hasn't had the game that shows up on the stat sheet, on the ESPN stat sheet. I'm going to say ESPN stat sheet because Brzee has had a lot of pressures, but he's never really gotten to the quarterback and just finished. And I want to see Brian Brzee get it done because while he's had those pressures, I want to see something that jumps out on the stat sheet. Like, I know a lot of people become couch coaches and the stat sheet doesn't mean shit to them anymore. I would love Brian Brzee to be like a 7-sack rookie, right? But
I was saying the same thing for Kalijah Cansey with 8. I said 8
yeah,
sacks.
yeah. So I think Brian Brzee should do a better job on the stat sheet now that he doesn't got Paulson Adebo in the game. I don't know. That's probably like the dumbest thing I've said, but yeah,
Not great logic, but the outcome is what we care about.
Yeah, I want the outcome to look better because, last week pass interference wasn't a thing until the last couple minutes of the game when it was very much needed for the Packers. But Brian Brzee needs to stand out on the basic stat sheet rather than the advanced stat sheet because I want to see numbers from him. I want his name to be in Defensive Rookie of the Year. I want people to say that he's snubbed, like Olave was last year. I basically just want Brzee to be worthy of where he was taken in the draft in terms of numbers. And then better than expected game, I'm going to say Juwan Johnson because he hasn't done very much recently. And I know that's a connection that Jameis liked a lot last year early was Juwan Johnson. I just hope that he can get back to, the red zone threat that he was last year. He had 500 yards and seven touchdowns. He was the second.
Had the second most touchdowns?
Second most touchdowns by a tight end. I didn't know how to word that for some reason. I'm running off an hour and a half of sleep, dude. But I just want Juwan Johnson to go back to what he was last year or just show receipts to what they paid him because I think they paid him 2 years, $14 million. So he's getting $7 million a year. That's, average tight end money, I think. I'm not really too in on tight end contracts, I don't think. But
I'm not really either, but
he's getting he got paid. He got paid. Let's put it that way. He got paid.
You guys pay for a lot of players that are questionable if they're worth it or not. Cesar Ruiz. But if Juwan Johnson can be that red zone threat, then at least it'll be worth it.
Yeah. See, I get you on Cesar Ruiz. He's definitely his receipts aren't showing yet. I felt the same way about Tyrann Mathieu last year until I figured out he had half of the team's interceptions. So, I mean, yeah, Cesar Ruiz ain't showed it yet. He needs to show it because he's getting paid starting guard money for a guy who's not starting guard material yet.
No.
He's improved. Trust me, there was a very, 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 very low point in his career. What you've seen now is a lot better than what he was. But it still doesn't warrant 4 years, $48 million. Yeah. But yeah, he does need to do better. I think the entire O-line as a unit needs to do better. Especially Trevor Penning and even Ryan Ramczyk. As much as I didn't want to admit that Ryan Ramczyk is doing bad.
Barry kind of bitch slapped him last week.
I know. It's bad. It was bad all around. Yeah, that was horrible. I think they need to stop giving him those Wednesday rest days, but until he earns it. But either way. All right, final question. Score predictions.
I mean, Buccaneers, I do have the Bucs winning this game.
Me too. I'm not even going to lie. I do.
Okay. But in the Buccaneers victories, it's been Mike Evans cooking and about 20-something score, 20-something points.
Yeah.
Never a high-powered offense. So I'll go with. Let's go just short of it. Let's go something weird or something scoregami would love. 19-14. We'll go with that.
I don't think that's a scoregami.
Something off, something weird, something. Yeah. Just that's my point. It's just something a weird one, but not quite 20 points because if Mike Evans has to cook for us to get there, that might not happen against Lattimore. It's going to be a defensive game. You bet the under if you're a betting man. Yeah,
I am.
I'm going to be when I hit 21, and I'm already like a player props freak. So
yeah, I live in Kentucky, so it's 18 plus here.
Oh, ooh, yeah, nice.
I've been betting since I was 15. I'm not even gonna lie, dude. I've had my loopholes. Either way, so for me, I think the Bucs are gonna win. I'm gonna say 18-16. Something like that.
Fair.
It's not going to be anything special. We're not going to come on here and tell you it's going to be an offensive masterclass from anybody because it's going to be a very sloppy game. You might not see a touchdown until the third quarter, maybe even the fourth quarter. I don't know. It's hard to predict these games because now instead of Derek Carr, you're facing Jameis, and instead of facing Tom Brady, you're facing Baker Mayfield. Instead of, you're worried about that Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore, over-under fights prop bet that's going to probably be on DraftKings sometime soon. I'm going to look for it. But I do expect Marshawn Lattimore or Mike Evans to be ejected, if not both. But it's going to be a low-scoring game, definitely. I would 100% take the under.
So, just in a hypothetical situation, if both of them get ejected, where are you going at cornerback? Because I know we got Devin Tompkins and Trey Palmer, who I guess I'm not in love with that pairing, but I know those would be the guys to step up. But where would you guys go in the secondary?
Okay, so where am I? On outside, it would be probably Lonnie Johnson and Isaac Yiadom. Unless they all of a sudden decide to take Alante out of the slot, because Alante is new to slot, and he's done a good job for being as new as he is. But he has more experience on the outside. So either if Marshawn Lattimore does get ejected, which God forbid, I think you put Alante Taylor on the outside, let Ugo Amadi go in the slot, and keep Isaac Yiadom on the other side. I'm not sure. I'm not the coach. I don't think Dennis Allen would work that way. But I think, in my eyes, I would be like the
But
best.
either way, it can get pretty dicey fast.
Yeah, it's one ejection to either Mike Evans or Marshawn Lattimore, that changes the entire landscape of the game because, they're both huge impact players for both teams. If Marshawn Lattimore's gone, your secondary's thin. It's almost gone.
And if Mike Evans goes, if you go on Next Gen Stats right now and you go and click that filter, it's the stat air yards share, or excuse me, not air yards, target share, and you click it and go to the top and just filter all the way down. Mike Evans is number 1 right now with 52% of the target share, and that's above Tyreek Hill right now.
Dang.
So, yeah, it's going to be.
Let's just hope. Oh, you know what?
Let's hope we get to see them play football instead of.
Yeah. It's always fun watching Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore. We already know they're going to be in their face. We already know they're going to make it fun to watch regardless of what the score is at the end. But I will say it is a very different game if one of them aren't playing. So, one last thing, if you want to plug anything like Twitter, YouTube, whatever it is, go ahead and do so.
Just my TikTok. That's the one I'm trying to grow right now. Is Game of Inches 47. That's I'm trying to get up to 1,000 followers on that one. So started ramping up the content about probably right at the start of the season, and I'm about to hit 200 on my way. Hopefully, getting to 1K.
All right, cool. Well, I appreciate you for joining me. Thank you, and hopefully we have a good game Sunday.
Hopefully.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. Go follow Dominic on TikTok, and I'll probably have his link in the description. You just send me that. And yeah, see you guys soon. Peace.